Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
Hey guys, haven't shared it too many times, but one of the biggest epiphanies that I've ever had in my life was the first day that I started reading personal development, entrepreneurship, business books. And the day that I started reading those books, that was the day when my life changed. And ever since then, I've never stopped. So I've compiled the top 30 books and also the top 30 success quotes that every man must live by in a simple guide. You can download it for free at kfmfree.com. Again, that's kfmfree.com to really start growing in every aspect of your life. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Jake Ducey, the author of Into the Win, The Purpose Principles, and he's got an upcoming book, Profit from Happiness, which will be his third book with the major publisher, Penguin House. What is the big publisher that you have going for you, Jake?
I got Penguin Random House. They merged.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So they're one company. It used to be Penguin and Random House was different, but they merged together.
All right. That's awesome. Yeah. Big brand for you there. Excited to have you back on here. This is your second time on the show. First one, we were talking about purpose. And in this episode, I'm excited to dive into how we can find more meaning in the work that we do and profit from our happiness. The subtitle of your book, The Unity of Wealth, Work, and Personal Fulfillment. This looks exciting.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate you having me back on, and I'm excited to be able to share with your community.
All right, let's do it. So we start off every show with a success quote or some sort of saying that you've lived by. And let me just double check here. The first episode, you basically quoted Jack Canfield, write it down, make it happen. Sounds very simple, but probably irresponsible for so much success in the world. So what do you got for us now from your new book here?
Your income is directly proportional for the need for what you do and your ability to do it. That's a Jim Rohn one.
Yeah, and break that down. How does that relate to profiting from happiness?
Yeah, well, I wrote that book because I do a lot of corporate events, speaking engagements, and I usually take a tour of the company or the organization before their facility. And one particular event, they brought me out and they said I was speaking to a specific team, a really large company. So speaking to a specific part of the team. And they said, we're having a lot of problems with leadership. Our productivity's down. Our numbers are down. And they said, okay, this guy's our team leader. And they said, well, also he's part of the reason you're here is because he's the most dysfunctional. There seems to be a lot of problems. So it was really weird to me that he was the team leader. They gave him the MVP. They gave him the accolades, but he had no ability to lead anybody else. And it was causing all this commotion where they're paying me a bunch of money to come out and talk. And the U.S. economy absorbs $500 billion of productivity loss every single year. 75% of Americans are disengaged at work. What that quote means to me and what the book is about is if you become a more valuable human being, of course, with your specific skill set that you're at work, if you become better at that, of course, with time, you're going to be paid more. But if you become that person wherever you're working, whether it's as an entrepreneur and you're building your online business and people talk well about you, or you're in a traditional work environment, if you become that person that leaves everyone with an impression of increase, everyone feeling better, more inspired, more engaged, more productive, you will be that advancing person that will be valued more, that will receive more accolades, that will be paid more for their efforts, for their value. So we're paid in direct proportion for our ability to do things. And it is extremely valuable to be that type of person, there's a big need for someone who can be that person that is able to engage and be a leader, no matter their title in their company or their title as an entrepreneur, to be that person to leave everyone with an impression of increase.
Yeah, I'm liking this. And so, Jake, I'm getting excited. I'm like, man, I want to wake up with more excitement. I want to wake up with more energy. And I'm sure my audience is thinking that too. So do we first have to love our work? Is that first, or can we associate a new meaning to our existing work?
I look at it the latter way. I'm not sure if it's possible for everyone to immediately love their work, but you can begin to love the work you're doing even if you don't love it now. Because 2 million Americans, and I don't know what the international statistics are, 2 million Americans quit well-paying jobs every month because they don't feel empowered or engaged. And we can begin right now to be that person. Like, what does fulfillment really come from? It's not tasks as much as it is the engagement we have with those around us, the way we make people feel, the way people make us feel. That's just an innate thing that a human being needs, is that interpersonal connection. And we can begin right now to be that person where everyone begins to notice us because we make everyone feel better. We'll immediately become a manager or move up our company or become a greater team leader, no matter what we're doing, if we become that type of person. So what I always say, and of course, this is with a grain of salt, everyone has their own way they want to go about things, even when they listen to a podcast like yours that they're listening to every episode, is even if you eventually want to make a change out of your career, you can find deep fulfillment. Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camps and found freedom, even though they were torturing him, because he said, regardless of the circumstances, you can never take away what's within my mind. And so you can engage with people and you can create smiles. You can be that person that makes everyone else, that no one else, if you feel like that, the chances are other people don't feel empowered. They feel lost. They're stressed because their kid is sick or because they're having fights with their wife. You can be that person that uplifts everyone and find a deep sense of not only of meaning, but of significance. Because at the end of the day, we all want significance. And you can find that by seeing the way that other people respond to you. And I think that's where it all begins. That's how you become an advancing person, whether you move out to another career or not. It can begin there. And so I think that's one. And number two, even if you don't like your job, you can look at your job like an investor, right? Like your job could be a way for you to save money to eventually start your own endeavors. But I think we can find meaning just in simple ways like that, seeing where this job can take us and seeing what type of personal and leadership skills we can build, even if we don't want to be there. Because if we move on to something greater that we love, the chances are we're going to hire other people and they may not love it. So if we can develop these skills now, we can inspire, empower others, find that sense of significance and meaning no matter where we are. And I think that's really what makes a leader and makes someone really valuable to the marketplace.
Yeah, this brings up, before this call, I was at the doctor's, and on my way down the elevator, two medical professionals come in the elevator too. They're going down. And I'm just kind of, I'm just doing my thing, looking on my phone, and I just overhear them talking. They're like, oh, it's busy. Yeah, busy day in the office today. And then the other one's like, gosh, I just can't wait for it to be Friday. It's Monday right now, and I just can't wait for it to be Friday. Oh, and he's like, me too, yeah. And the guy got off the elevator on his floor, and the other guy looked at the guy and he was like, yeah, just hang in there, man. It'll be there soon. And then the guy was like, yeah, I know.
and that's,
these are doctors.
These are doctors, but that happens in every workplace. And when we're thinking like that, it makes the week even more drudgery than it needs to be. You could be like, I'm on a mission to make every single person smile, to make every single person inspired. And we know they've done studies at Harvard that the people that are most engaged, even if they're not engaged with their work, they're most engaged with their environment, they're more productive, which means you'll make more money. So it's funny that you just experienced that.
Yeah. So what I'm getting from this is, even if we don't necessarily like our job, if that's where we're at, we can still associate a new meaning to our work, which will then increase engagement, which will then increase our success in our professional careers.
no one needs to do it. The chances are they'll continue to be broke, disgusted, and upset if they don't do that. So they're welcome to have their own free will of choice. But we find that the people who do that always become advancing people. They always find happiness, even though they're like, you know what, I'm eventually going to make a shift. But they learn all the interpersonal skills. You know, you earn what you are, Jim Rohn says. And if you can become more than you are, you'll earn more than you are, you'll become more happier, and even the worst situations can inspire you to become that. Napoleon Hill calls it inspiration through dissatisfaction.
Break that down. Inspiration through dissatisfaction.
Yeah, if you don't like where you are, right, then two things. You can either quit right now, which most people can't, or you can use the dissatisfaction as inspiration to become more than you are, to find more meaning, to learn the skills for you to advance in the company, or to go out and join a new company, or to go out and start your own business. So, for example, I have a client and she hates her job. She doesn't want to be there anymore. So we've worked on the mentality to go out there and be that person that makes everyone else feel great. And she noticed, wow, that makes me feel better. But she's like, I still don't want to be here. So we look at it like, okay, if you don't want to be there, use that dissatisfaction as inspiration. And for her, it's getting a real estate license. So she's done it in 3 months, which is the fastest time you could possibly do it. So you can use dissatisfaction, in the positive psychology movement. A lot of times we think of these types of negative emotions as, oh, icky, you don't want those. Why not use them in order to become more than you are, in order to catapult yourself into the next level of income, to not settle, to raise new standards for who you are and what you earn and the type of life you're creating for yourself and your loved ones? You can use dissatisfaction. It's okay to not be happy where you are. Just accept it and then say, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to become someone more.
Yeah, this is good. And I like how, just going back to Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, going back to his whole theme in that book, it's like no matter where we're at, we can assign a new meaning to the situation and use it to benefit us. Either we're going to stay there and enjoy the work, or we could use that dissatisfaction. It sounds almost like fuel, turning that dissatisfaction into fuel to drive towards what we really want to do. This brings up a similar experience I'd like to share. When I used to manage a retail store a few years back. And there was one thing that they did that I really liked, which was they donated 1% of that store's revenue to the local community. And it went towards schools and parks and people who couldn't feed themselves. And I felt that because I was a manager, I was in a position to increase revenue, therefore increase the local communities, increase the amount of money that would go into that little fund that would impact my local community. And so I took that really hard. I was like, and I was using that to motivate the team, where it's like, hey, we could impact lives, work harder, get things done, show up on time. We are making a difference here in the world or in the community. And just that little tweak, even it's just 1% of revenue, which at a major retailer, that's millions of dollars, was enough to motivate me to show up and really work hard at a job that I was really dissatisfied at.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that little shift of perspective, that's another, of course, we listen to these podcasts and they're often motivating, and you just made a great tangible point. If you're not happy with where you are, you could tie, if you're not already, 1% that you start to give away, or 10% that you start to give away. Or you could even look at it like, I don't want to be here now, but I'm going to start saving 20% of my income every month. And that's going to go towards starting this project that I do want to do, right? So you made such an awesome point. When we can step outside of our personal concerns for something broader than ourselves, we can find so much more inspiration, even if we don't want to be there long term. And I think that that's essential to have that quality if someone really wants to be a leader, or really wants to grow their income, or really wants more recognition or happiness. It's just essential to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is great. And what would you say are some of the old ways of thinking around dissatisfaction around work versus the new ways of thinking today, which I think is kind of what we're talking about here. This is kind of a newer way of thinking, and then comparing it to the old way of thinking, because I think, we grew up in the old way of thinking and maybe we're still running on that script.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really interesting conversation. I think that's a really awesome point you made. In my opinion, and where my mind goes is in the past, it's often been that I need to sacrifice well-being, freedom, and happiness, right? And I'm sure this is a conversation we've all heard in order to attain more success. But you can have both. And that's what profit from happiness is. You can have both of them. You can, and that's what a lot of the richest people in the world, they don't pick between freedom, happiness, and money. They say, well, how can I have all of them? And I think when you shift the question and you say, how can I have it all? Then you can find the answer. So I think that, and not only is this just in theory, science is proving, psychology is proving, Harvard's doing studies that the people that are more productive at work and the workers that cause less accidents, that cost less than healthcare, are the ones who are most fulfilled, who are most engaged, who do feel a sense of empowerment. So your brain is just functioning better. So I think that it's possible to have all of it at the same time. It's not one or the other. It can be all of them. But in order to do that, we have to jump into a whole new way of thought because we've been conditioned and programmed by our culture to pick one or the other. I mean, you're a perfect example. You went from a job that I'm sure paid you decent, when you were managing Target, to now probably 10 timesing your income. You have more freedom, you work less, but you make more money. And you're way happier, right? That's what's happened for you, Andrew, and that's available for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. 6 times income. 10
times.
10 will be this year, but according to last year, 6 times income. And it was a really good paying job, especially for where I was. And I want to give some guys a breakdown because I think it's obvious. Like, hey, if you're not in a position that you probably pays well, that's probably why you're there. And then maybe you've built up a lifestyle that actually needs that job now. Like you have a car, you have bills. And so now it's like, okay, I need this job. I can't just quit cold turkey.
Right.
What is a realistic, like, what kind of solution can we craft together here for someone to go, yeah, okay, I'm going to sign more meaning at work. I'm going to do that. I like where that direction is going, but I want the end game. Like I really want to get a new I want to do my own thing.
Yeah, and that's great. I always tell people don't quit your job unless you don't have to keep it. Eventually you could shift to part-time as it goes down the line. But I think the first thing is to take a good look at your finances. And that's what I do if I work with a private client. Like I have a new one I just started with and she wants that. She doesn't want to keep her job anymore. So the first thing we did was look at what she does with her money every month. And I think that's really important is we're not taught anything about money. So we kind of just take our check and it goes into a lump sum and we look at it and we just spend it all on things we don't need. And then we get in a lease and we get in this. So we need the money again. So I think a great first step is to get more clarity around over the last 30 days, how has your money been spent? Where has it went? And I think the second thing is to set up a real strategy and structure around how you spend your money. I do 33% goes into savings, 33% living expenses, and 33% is my general checking that covers everything from food to gym memberships. So if I want to go on a vacation, everyone has their own structure, but look at what's a possible structure. Some people's might be 25% of their check will go to living, 20% to savings, 10% to travel. Break down it a little bit because you can give yourself a position to break away from the spot that you described a minute ago, Andrew, which was now I need this job because of my lifestyle. And I think take a better look at what's happening with our money right now is a good first step. And I think it can be pretty empowering. Like this woman last month realized like, holy shit, I actually can go travel right now. And I've wanted to do that. And I had no awareness over my money to even know that. So I think that can be a pretty empowering first step, just to have that level of awareness over where my money is and how much freedom I can create over what I am even making right now. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I did. I kind of did this process when I was quitting, really looking at, hey, how much do I really need with a capital R? Like, how much do I really need to live? And obviously living at just like a base level so that I could start saving and planning for this, like creating a runway is the way I look at it. Before when you quit, you want to have a good runway of some savings and some tangible numbers of how much I really need for rent, for just food, living expenses, and even like light entertainment stuff. But I often found that I've done this with a number of clients as well, and even having myself gone on this journey, that the number it's typically not that far away. It's not as high as you think, like how much you really need, like if you dumb it down, because we have to remember you're going to be doing work that you really enjoy. And like a lot of your like entertainment would come from the satisfaction you get from living with purpose.
Yeah, I think that's always funny to determine. I'm not saying go on this crazy budget and develop scarcity mode, but just get awareness over what do you actually need to maintain a comfortable lifestyle. And another thing I have people do, wherever you are right now, this is something you can do. Literally, don't just hear this. Please just take out a pen or open up Microsoft Word if you're on the computer, or Notes if you're on your iPhone, and write possible sources of income, and just make a list of all of them, right? What are possible sources of income? Doesn't mean you're going to get paid from them today, but when I really examine that and I look at that with people, I have a client who was working a full-time job and she realized, oh, I'm good at art. So she started making a couple pieces, and now she's making $1,500 a month off art. That's extra income on top of her current job. And she's just opening up this whole other avenue. So if we actually look at a lot of the top 1% of wealth earners, they have multiple sources of income. And so examine, what's something that might take an hour of your week or 5 hours of your week that you could turn into a potential source of income. Some of them might be great, some of them won't, but all of them will flow into your bank account, and it'll create, an extra $100 a month, an extra $5,000 a month. And I think that when we start looking at things that way, we can create even more avenues where you don't need to quit your job, but maybe a couple hours a week working on a new project could turn out to create more income for you. I know you have multiple sources of income, even off of the brand you've developed with Knowledge for Men. There's numerous ways that you create income. And I have income outside of the context of myself as an author and speaker. And so I think that that's a significant thing to start to ponder. Doesn't mean that they're going to show up, money will show up in your bank account today, but start to look at what are some possible sources of income that I might be able to develop in the short term and in the long term.
Yeah, really good. And even today, I think it's never been easier. Like, I think right away, anyone can be an Uber driver or Airbnb so or TaskRabbit. Yeah. Like, there's ways to make, like, even at the bare minimum, you're just like, I just want to make an extra $100 a day. There's things out there available that you could get started on in the next week or so. Of course, it may not be your passion project, but you can save up money, or either when you do quit, it'll fund your life so you can spend the other half of the day on doing something that really lights you up. So far we got 3 things here. Really, first, number one was like taking a look at where has your money been spent. So maybe like looking at your credit card statements and just how much are you spending each month, and then getting the average there. Number 2 was setting up a strategy for yourself. I probably would say most of us, I could probably argue and say like most of us don't have a strategy for like where does our money go and how do we allocate our funds once we do get it. Even, I'm not talking if you're a business owner, I'm talking even if you have a job too. You talked about savings, living, entertainment. I like that. That's really cool. And then third, you talked about, well, let's take a look at some possible sources of income. Like, what are some other things that we could do to generate income? Okay, so what would be the next steps here?
Well, I think if you listening to this genuinely take those steps, just those 3 alone, man, there's so many things have opened up in my life. It sounds like your life, Andrew, and I know they've opened up in a lot of people that I've worked with as well, just applying those. And then I'd say from there, start playing with some of those sources of income. Have fun with them and see which ones pan out, which ones don't. Getting a clear image is essential as well. Getting a clear image on what type of income do you really want to create for yourself. And eventually that may mean phasing out the current job. But I think if it can just all begin with, we're running with so many ideas. This is a lot of practical steps you can take after just this show that could hopefully take your life to a whole nother level, but not neglecting the essentials, which is the ability to share a smile with whomever you live with in your home, with whomever is in your hallway, with whomever is in your elevator at work, the grocery store person, lending an ear, developing that type of leadership and remembering the essentials of the interpersonal connection can give us the momentary fulfillment and engagement and connection to life while we work on these larger goals. And so I think that keeping that in mind is really important.
I like that. Yeah. I like how you brought it back to the simplicities. Kind of reminds me of like How to Win Friends and Influence People, like bringing it back to those classic things there to really stay connected. I'd like to add in here on the journey, like if someone's on it, I think it could be really challenging if you're doing this alone and you don't develop a network of people around you who are also on the same page with you. They don't need to be like these ultra successful people, but just on the same page, on the same rhythm where you're like, hey man, I'm thinking about, starting getting some new sources of income, and I'm starting to take a look at my budget, potentially quit my job within 6 months. And if you're with another person who's like, hey, me too. I mean, that's a power. You're like, I'm not alone. And I think for me, when I was in that transition period, when I was quitting, I was going to meetup.com. I was surrounding myself with all kinds of different up and coming type of entrepreneurs, or just people who wanted to find more meaning in their work. Like they don't have to be people who want to make millions of dollars, just people who just are happy and are into personal development. I think if that's all like you're just like, the conversation is always about self-improvement and like accountability towards your goals, I think you're likely to stay on the journey and not fall back into the job that you don't like.
Such a good point, man. Such a good point. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And I was just listening to, and I was just thinking, wow, this is a great episode. I think this is hopefully people are finding a lot of value out of it. And I agree with you. It doesn't need to be anyone other than someone who meets the criteria of they want to improve themselves in their lives.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't need to be these like, it's great if you have mentors. I mean, we talked about in your last episode, you have some incredible mentors such as Jack Canfield. And I know the value of a high value mentor, but just in your everyday life, if the conversation is, yeah, like I am going to improve. I am going to go after my dreams, and it's like you just don't view giving up as an option, because it's like we're all going, and I am too.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe one of these people can even be one you develop a source of income with. Maybe you make good granola and you want to go sell it at your farmer's market. Like the income could be anything. Like think about all the ways people make money in the world and explore one that isn't a huge money commitment on your part to get going and a huge time of commitment, and find a teammate. It'll lessen your, if you're working a full-time job already, it will lessen your energy and time commitment. Get a couple partners, explore some ideas. Some you can get going on now, some that will take more time. And one thing that's really changed my life too, that I'd like to add to that is I have been really just drilling into my subconscious so much that money comes to me in increasing quantities through many sources on a continuous basis, and just drilling that into my head. And it just opens me up to all these ideas. And I think that whole shift, rather than money can only come to me in this one way, has really enhanced my life. Now, areas that I never foresee myself exploring are turning out to create great sources of income that are also rewarding and fulfilling. And so money comes to you listening to this in multiple sources on a consistent basis, constantly increasing. And when we can soak that in, I think so many awesome opportunities that perhaps we were on tunnel vision and weren't able to be open to can come into our life.
So what do you mean, like training the subconscious for like money comes to me? Are you talking about affirmations, or are you talking more on the lines of like, hey, I'm open to new ideas. Like I'm not just thinking I can only make money from books and speaking.
I think both.
Okay.
I think both are really important. My income changed when I opened myself up, other than I could only get paid for a keynote or books. And now I have 10 or 15 sources of income. Additionally,
I thought I saw you on Uber. Was that you, Jake? Was that?
I was not, but I
Jake's
think
just
that'd be
like,
a great way to make money.
What if you had your books on the display, like on the dashboard? You're like, yeah, profit from happiness, like selling your stuff, like listening to your audiobook in the car.
That it would be great. Yeah, no, I got involved in a new company, and that I'm excited about, working only an hour a day. It started an hour a week, and I've seen the income grow. And so I've just opened myself to new ways to make money and new ways to express myself and meet new people. Network marketing companies are always a great low bar of entry and cost where you could explore things. But I've been a junkie with the subconscious mind. Generally, we know what we want, right? We're like, Andrew, I've been writing my goals down. I've been saying, I know I want to make 100,000. I know I want to make 1,000,000, but it's not happening. And that's because that's a conscious thought. But our subconscious is programmed in a certain way. So I'm a big junkie on I literally sit there and I write the same thing down 25 times in the morning, 25 times at night. And I have a hypnosis that just tells me how money's coming to me in increasing quantities through many sources on a continuous basis. It's creating a new program in my mind. And we know that works. That's not law of attraction. That's just genuinely, that's how hypnosis works. They're relaxing you to get past your conscious mind to get into your subconscious, because your subconscious, psychologists tell us we have 65,000 thoughts a day. I probably have only remembered 15 of my thoughts today. That means almost 65,000 of your thoughts you don't remember. They're happening unconsciously, and most often they're negative, self-sabotaging thoughts. And so when we can reprogram ourselves, when we can hypnotize ourselves into a new way of thinking, a new way of being, a new paradigm, then new things can begin to open up without necessarily just our conscious effort. And that's something that I'm kind of geeking out on lately and have been really passionate about.
That's awesome. I'm thinking right now in my life, how has this applied? Because I get it. I get it. I'm thinking, I never thought that I would set live seminars. When I first started, I was, it was a podcast and a blog, and I thought I was going to create courses and maybe write books. I thought that was my career, but over the last year and a half, I've led quite a few different retreats and seminars. And so I'm thinking that's how I can relate to that, is I didn't know it was an option to me, but I was open to it and I just let it come. It just felt right.
Yeah, and you tried it out and you said, hey, this is fun. Oh, look, I made a bit of money. Why don't I try this again? I'll have more fun and I'll make more money. And then by fun. And by fun, that's what I mean. The impact is it's fun and there's the impact. I call that one and the same. It is fun to make an impact. And so I'm with you. Yeah, it's just opening ourselves to these new things that are fun. And by fun, it's generally it's fun when something is impactful to others and to ourselves. And so that's the way I look at it. When we just can create that intention for new possibilities to emerge. Some of them might not work out. Some of them will. And just open ourselves up rather than being so stuck on this single
narrow path.
Yeah, and that's why I said make a list of possible sources of income. Really challenge yourself to think of these.
Yeah, I think too for the listeners, they can also take a look at their job and be like, hey, just because you have a degree in accounting doesn't mean you have to be an accountant for the rest of your life. And why not open up and explore what else is out there? So I think that's another way we could look at it, is career option and just completely different fields that might bring us to life.
Absolutely. Yeah, 1,000%. Really genuinely asking yourself, what do you really, really want? And your answer can't be, I don't know, right? I'm sure you hear that. People always say, I don't know. I always say, there's only one rule. You can't say, I don't know. And when we really ask ourselves and we don't say, I don't know, generally we find some pretty cool ideas, some pretty fun, exciting ideas.
Absolutely. So what would you say are some common mistakes, some do's and don'ts that someone might encounter, something they should be aware of as they start this journey?
Don't limit where your income can come from. It might be a way you don't expect. Right now I'm making really good money every month off an income I wasn't even open to a year ago, 8 months ago. And it's been really fulfilling. It's impacted other people's lives and it's paying well. I think stay open. And secondly, patience was probably the thing that I'm just getting now, but my first book came out when I was 20. And
That's amazing. Congratulations. I remember when I heard about this kid, Jake Ducey, crushing it at 20. I was like, oh man, this is amazing. Gotta get him on the show. And that was the last episode when you were launching Purpose Principles. And so really cool to have you back on for
thanks, brother.
The latest book here, Profit from Happiness.
Yeah, but I appreciate that. But my point being was that I'm not even 25, and the biggest stress that causes me is I want results fast. And everyone does. But when we can recognize that when you plant a seed in the ground, you're not going to have a lemon tree tomorrow. So why would we expect to plant a seed of thought, a seed in our dream, a seed in our mind, and it to happen overnight? And so when we can keep the patience, I think that it's really important. I think that so much is possible in 5 to 10 years, but we can't really conceive that because we want it to happen in 6 months or 9 months. So I think really testing the waters long enough to see what the fruits yield is really important. And the patience is so important. And I think that's why you and I are such advocates of don't quit your job tomorrow. You can keep it to support you while putting your energy into other areas so you don't compromise, overextend yourself, and cause yourself unnecessary headaches. And so I think patience is so important, but it's not that glamorous. So it's not always as discussed. And so I would say patience. People get impatient and they beat themselves up when the results don't happen as much as they want. Steve Jobs says, there's no one smarter than you. The world is made just by people like you and I. And when we really soak that in, we can say, okay, I'm not getting the results I want yet, but I have this image of what I want in my mind. It's clearly defined. I can see it. I can feel it. And I'll continue from that space. And then magical things can start to happen when we say, okay, it's only been 2 months, only been 6 months, only been 3 years. Let's see where this can go in 10 years. And I think it's really important. I also say, keep your desires, your dreams. You don't need to go share them with everyone. You don't need to go tell Facebook that in 2 years you're going to be a millionaire. You don't need to do that. And I think it can cause a lot of headache if you post something and then it doesn't work out, then you're like, shit, I just told everyone. Yeah. And I think things like that are really important, get some clearly defined goals, some tangible steps to work towards them, share them with people that, will encourage you or that can help you. Or as you said, be an accountability, a partner. Keep reading, keep studying. If you only have 20 minutes of spare time, maybe you have no spare time. One thing I do when I'm really tight on time is I just play Bob Proctor or some motivational thing while I'm in the shower for 10 minutes. Find those ways to keep putting this into your mind so it keeps growing, and stay patient with the process because, great things can happen if we can be patient.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Those are big mistakes I think that we can all make on any journey, whether someone's trying to take up a new hobby or they're trying to quit their job and build, a business or some sort of opportunity for themselves that they really are passionate about. I could talk to someone and they talk about how they quit or it didn't work, and I'll just respond something like, well, how much time did you give to this thing? And something like 5 months or something. And when we give something just 5 months, that's not even enough time for a baby to be born. And we're trying to make something or build something that's going to last us for the rest of our lives. We've got to give it some time, really thinking about it. What is his name? The guy who started Uggs, I think it's Brian Smith.
It is Brian Smith.
It is Brian Smith. Yeah. And so he kind of looks at businesses like babies, and it's like, how in the beginning it's like a baby. It needs a lot of your attention. You got to nurture and nurture and nurture it, and then it becomes a kid and it's wild and uncontrollable. A teenager, it's crazy, and then finally it becomes an adult. And it does take some time, not necessarily 18 years, but it does take more time than I would say the last few emails I got, 5 months, before you can actually have this thing that is actually probably going to be more reliable than a job.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's important to find those things that you feel an emotional engagement with enough where you're willing to wait it out for a year or 2 years or whatever the case may be. And when you don't create, just like in a relationship, when you're dependent upon a woman, it usually doesn't work out. If you're dependent on this source of income, chances are it'll cause a lot of stress and it may or may not work out. But if you can keep yourself afloat in other ways and then explore, then you've separated the dependency from it and you've created space for it to really grow.
Yeah, yeah. So we've laid out a really cool plan here with just how we talked about your book, talked about how someone can assign a new meaning to their work and find fulfillment. Like right now, like that's a switch that someone can make right now and show up tomorrow with a lot more energy and engagement. And then we looked at some really realistic, tangible things that someone could do today. Where's the money spent, setting up a strategy, possible sources of income they can create, building a network of like-minded people, and then diving into your subconscious, and then being aware that it takes time. Really cool layout and a solution for someone here. Now, yeah.
This is a great show. I'm really happy with this.
I know. I'm just like, this is someone's going to do this. Someone's actually going to do this, and something incredible is going to happen in their lives. Let's now dive into the knowledge round. So just going to ask you a few rapid fire questions here, more general personal development stuff here, but all tailored in. So Jake, ready for the knowledge round?
Yeah, please.
Awesome.
If you want to grow to the highest levels that you've ever been at in your life, go to kfmfree.com and you can download the top 30 books and success quotes that every man must live by. Every guy should read. If you want to grow, if you want to achieve greatness in life, you're going to have to read and surround yourself with the greatest minds of the world. So I've done all of the hard work for you. I've read hundreds of books. I've listened to hundreds of audiobooks. I've gone through and found the best quotes that you'll need to succeed and thrive and grow and become the man that you want to be. So go to kfmfree.com and I'll send it to you right now. kfmfree.com.
Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime.
What advice would you give to someone who is struggling to find, let's say, like that thing that they want to do, or they're lacking a sense of purpose in their lives?
I think it goes back to how we started this conversation, and just see right now, Bob Proctor calls it the impression of increase. See whom you could leave with an impression of increase, whether it's a coworker or it's your mom that you live with or your roommate. Leave someone with an impression of increase. If you have a girlfriend, go buy them flowers. Just look how significant you are and can be, the impact you can make in a very subtle way. And the second part, that's our everyday interpersonal things. And we can, as we said, that's an innate part that a human being needs to feel fulfilled. And the second, I think it goes back to genuinely ask yourself, like, what do you want? What is the lifestyle you really want to create? And work from there and examine those sources of income lists that I'm encouraging you and Andrew's encouraging you to make, is really make those and see which one seems like 1 or 2 or 3 you might want to explore now, and get genuinely curious and accept that it's okay. It really is okay to not be where you want to be. I'm really grateful for where I am, but I'm nowhere near where I see myself going. And that's okay. That's what makes life fun. And I think when we cannot, too many people beat themselves up and they're like, I'm not where I am. I'm stupid. I'm this. I should be somewhere else. You shouldn't be anywhere other than you are, but you can change where you are. And you're not a tree. You can change where you are. Jim Rohn says that. Hey, look, you're not a tree. You can change it. And so I think when we accept that, don't beat ourselves up, examine these sources of income, and just really stick the path. Like, I know you had a time where you probably felt like quitting. I've had a time where I felt like quitting. It's okay to feel like that. That just means you might be on the right path. And when you can stick through that phase, I think things will really open up for you.
Hell yeah. I had an opportunity where many points where I thought I was going to quit. And looking back though, now things are very much more stable. I'm not worried about financials. It's more just growth. It's like I've hit that level of security. But looking back, to be honest, those positions, sleeping on my brother's couch, like his little dog waking me up in the morning, and just like not having money. And there was a period on this journey where I tried to withdraw $20 from the bank and it had insufficient funds. I had $14.60 something cents to my name. But looking back, man, honestly, that was one of the funnest times of my life. I was so alive when I was just going to meetups. I was reading tons of books. I was starting this podcast. I was working 7 days a week. Of course, like that was just a part of the gig. Like I'm broke. I have to work. But like looking back, it was one of the best times of my life. I loved, like, it was something that, it's scary because you don't know how long it's going to last. But now that I look back at it, I was the most alive. I was really living on my edge. And I read this book often. It's called Courage, the Joy of Living Dangerously by Osho, who's an Indian philosopher. And he says that when we live on our edge, when we are living in danger, just a little bit of danger, we are most alive, and humans thrive when there's that little sense of danger. And so we could do what we just talked about in the beginning, or talking about Viktor Frankl's, we could assign the meaning that like, hey, this journey of uncertainty is actually the journey of coming alive.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I feel the same way. Of course, there's times I thought I was going to have a heart attack at 20 years old or something from just nothing working out yet. But I agree with you. It is. And you look back, and those are the things where it's like, it's so freeing to look back. And when you can just say, it's okay, here's where I am. The chances really of going totally homeless and living the next 40 years of your life in a homeless shelter, that happens. But I don't know anyone who's failed at their dream where everything for the rest of their life was just totally ruined. Like, you'll meet a lot of challenges, but I think that the chances of really the absolute worst that could happen aren't as probable as they seem to be in our minds.
Yeah. That's a great point to make. Thanks for bringing that up and bringing that here, because we often think like it's just over, game over forever. But it happens, and then you bounce back. And you're back at it. So great. Jake, what was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
Probably in the last year since we've talked last.
Yeah, it's been about a year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say in the last while, it's probably been really developing an even healthier relationship with money has been really significant. That's really been the next. My income has just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
They're all really fun ways to make money. They fulfill my soul. They're inspiring others. It's just great in every way. And so developing an even healthier relationship with money has been really significant. It's inspired people close to me. It's inspired myself. So I think that, and really embracing that, and really bracing my desire to build absolute financial freedom for not only myself, but for my family, generations to come. I really embrace that. I embrace that desire, and embracing that desire for constant increase in financial success has been a big breakthrough in my life, and the patience along with that has been really a breakthrough for me in the last 12 months.
Yeah. I think everyone has some sort of relationship with money, whether you know it or not. And we might be living off of a relationship that we created when we were 10 years old.
That doesn't help so much too, right? Like,
right.
I wasn't like I was making bad money, but I realized like it's okay for me to make more than this. And by making more, the only way I can make more is providing more service, is impacting more people's lives. And when I got that psychology squared away, that I couldn't make more money unless I provided more service and impacted more people's lives, then I was like, duh. I just like go out there and genuinely serve people and impact their lives in various ways, dependent on the business model, dependent on whatever it was. And I could make more money for myself and other people. And that was a big shift. It's okay to want to be rich. It's okay to do that, as long as we can remember what, I start off that book, the new one, The Profit from Happiness, with a story from Justine Musk, Elon Musk's ex-wife. And she was asked on a Quora forum, somebody said, I want to be a billionaire. Will I be one? And she said, no, you're asking the wrong question entirely. It's not if you'll become a billionaire, because the world doesn't care what you want. What you need to ask is, how can I provide that kind of service? What's something that would be so valuable to the world and fill that need? And when you fill that need, you'll make the money. Just like Elon is worth all this money today, he's solving really important problems, the environmental problems, all these amazing things. And of course, he's compensated greatly for it. So when you embrace that, I think life takes on a whole new meaning. You find you can impact people in more ways, and you can create more freedom for yourself.
Yeah, I really like that. I've heard something similar. I have read that Quora thing, so you guys can Google that and find that easily. I also read something like, if you want to make $1 billion, just go ahead and help 1 billion people.
For sure. Yeah, it would probably help.
I think so too. And if not, you would just be like someone like Gandhi, where you just change, you change the world, and that's not bad either. So your books, just to recap, Into the Wind, The Purpose Principles, and then your upcoming one is Profit from Happiness, which should be coming out this summer. But what are some really cool books that you've been reading lately in the last year, like some really influential books?
Yeah, I'll list the books I've read more than 3 or 4 times in the last year.
Yeah, the classics.
Yeah, that'd be The Science of Getting Rich. I've read that one over 20 times.
And the author?
Wallace Wattles is the author. It's written in like 1913 or something like that. That's a really good book.
And do you find that book relative today? 1913, the guy wrote it, which means he probably learned his wisdom in the 1800s. How does, when you read that book, I have the book and have read it. I'm laying it out because that's what an audience might be thinking.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the classics are probably the ones that are most important to read. A lot of these books that we hear about aren't going to be around in 20 years. They just have really good marketing and everyone's going to forget them in 20 years. And I think that it's important to...
That's funny.
It's true.
I hope
it's
that's
true.
not my books, guys. Guys listening, don't do that to me, all right? Yeah. Good point. Yeah, just, it's true. But yeah, go on with that. That's powerful.
So if you look at the amount of millionaires that credit The Science of Getting Rich to what's changed their lives, it's a lot. There's a lot of people. And so it's worth looking at just for that. And second, yeah, it's totally applicable. Wallace Wattles was one of the original personal development writers. A lot of the financial writers that you read today, that I read today, that you listening to this read today, they were inspired by Wallace Wattles. Even Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret, she's openly said the book that inspired her to do the movie and the book and go on that path was Wallace Wattles' book. And so it's worth examining for sure. I really believe that in 50 years, it's going to be, it'll probably be more applicable in 50 years. So I think that's a great one that I personally find a lot of value in. Another one I'm reading right now I really like is The Secret of the Ages by Robert Collier. That's a great one. I like Bob Proctor's books a lot. You Were Born Rich is a really great book. Oh, and speaking of the subconscious mind, The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy is all about the subconscious mind, and he correlates it to health, wealth, happiness, and impact. And that's a really interesting, just like pretty mind-blowing book about how a lot of the results in our life are unconscious and how to change them. It's called The Power of the Subconscious Mind.
Yeah, really good books. And I'm glad we talked about some of the classics here. While you were sharing, I looked up Wallace Wattles, just wanted to grab a quote. And I think this highlights a lot of the book here. And it's by Wallace Wattles, the author. He says, "Give every man more in use value than you take from him in cash value."
Yeah, that's a good one. That's almost a good way to end that for sure.
We're done. It's over.
Yeah. That's it's powerful.
Yeah, it's a short book too. You guys should get on that. So thanks for sharing the books now. And so if you could go back, let's just say 5 years or so, what would you tell yourself in regards to money? What would be the money conversation you would tell your former self?
Yeah, well, mine was like 5 years ago. It was really, I thought I could live in a hut in Central America or something.
Oh, you were on the travels. I was Into the Wind
Yeah, I thought money was bad. And now I realize money is energy. Really, everything, even this desk is energy. Everything is energy. And I think that money can provide comfort and it can extend the good that you can do far beyond your own physical presence. Wallace Wattles says, if you really want to do good in the world, getting rich will serve you very well because then you're multiplying your efforts. If you had an extra $1 million to provide to service in the world over the course of your life or over the course of 12 months, you could extend the good you were doing far beyond your own hands-on ability to provide. And so when you look at money as a means to create more comfort for yourself and those around you and to extend the good you can do far beyond your own physical presence, then I think it would have soaked in with me a lot quicker. And I probably could have created more stability for myself and probably impacted a lot more people's lives if I recognized that money also can help extend the good that I could ever do far beyond my own hands.
Yeah, that's a powerful topic there. And some people, may not like me bringing this up, but the truth is even, religions need money, and those are some of the most powerful organizations. Whatever religion you're in, they need money in order to make a bigger impact. And they ask for money, at least the church that I had been going to, they ask for money every single time that you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when we can have that healthy relationship towards it, Bob Proctor says, love people and use money. With people, you usually have that one the other way around. They love money and they use people. Use people. Money is your servant. You are not a servant to money. Money is your servant. And love people along that way. Do not use them. Do not take advantage of them. And you'll follow these laws of an advancing person. And you will find, as Wallace Waddell says, that you can get rich by providing more in use value than you take from someone in cash value. Remember, money is your servant and you're the master, and to use it and to love people, and you can create an amazing life for yourself and help a lot of other people do the same.
That's great. That's great. And I'm feeling a new relationship with money already, Jake. I'm tingling in my spine here. So really good. We'll wrap up the episode here. Before we close out here and cut it, I'm excited to learn more about what you're building for the rest of the year. Like what's exciting you now?
Well, my seminars have been going really well, where we just kind of dive into this subject a lot. So I got one coming up soon, and going to do a Europe, Australia tour, I think, later this year, running my conferences, my seminars. The new book's out in June. And yeah, one thing that's really exciting me, it's not totally related. It's another business that I have building lead acquisition for sustainable energy for Elon Musk company. And that's fun because it's, in my opinion, one of the most important things to solve in the world is a sustainable energy future. So I've been having a lot of fun with that, trying to create a more sustainable planet. So yeah, between all of those, just having a blast and gonna keep growing those. Excited to go to Europe, and excited for people to get the hands on the new book, and staying in shape is a big one for me. So I'll definitely be not neglecting these little things because they seem to make me think better and perform better in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, there you have it. Jake Ducey dropping knowledge bombs on the Knowledge for Men podcast. And for all the listeners, you can follow up with Jake. I think the best thing is just go to jakeducey.com, and that's with a C, Ducey, or just go into Google and boom, there you go. And then go into Amazon, you type in his name, all the books pop up right there. I just did it. And you can follow up with his book should be out by the time this episode is you're listening to this. So head over to Amazon and support Jake and his work. Jake, thank you so much for sharing your story and lessons around money and giving us some practical steps to becoming free, happier, and more fulfilled.
Thank you. And I pray that you listening to this apply these awesome things that we laid out. Yeah, please listen to this again and hit Andrew and I up and let us know how these tangible steps that were given in this episode have worked out for you. I'm sure it'll really make Andrew's day, and I know it'll do the same for mine.
Absolutely. I think none other. Some of the best emails that I get is someone who listened to the show or read a book or came to my event or something and is like, hey, I applied and got this result, and thank you. Like that's exactly why I do this work.
Yeah, awesome, man. This was a great episode. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of knowledgeformen.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.